Good morning. It is January 20th in the year 2017. I'm Alex Ansary, and this is the most recent, the latest installment of the Alex Jones Deception series. Which number is it? I've lost count. But take a look up top at the title. I believe we're at 19 or 20. And this is something that I started last year, and I'll do a brief recap without going into all the information. But some of the types of videos that you're going to find that are there in a not so linear but abstract manner is basically thoughts that I've been holding within for a long time. Alex Jones was an inspiration when I found him in 2002, in particular his documentary film 9/11 The Road to Tyranny. By 2004, 2005, I started my TV show, the only person that I know of both Afghan and Anglo descent in the alternative media, also echoing the message of Alex Jones at that time, and others that were involved in what we call the 9/11 Truth Movement. And I also found myself alienated very much as a result of my activism. I'm going to write a book one day so you guys will get to know me a little bit better. And realize that I've been on this journey as an independent, as real as that term actually is, in every sense of my life. As I live alone, as I live off the grid, as I'm actually snowed in now for months at a time, literally living off survival supplies, and with an internet connection to come to you now. I live very differently than I did last year when I was doing the Alex Jones Deception series. And so there's something about whatever I'm doing now where I'm purging a lot of information on a lot of topics. And you can even say that I'm relaxed enough in mind, body, and spirit to go deeper into what it is that I'm trying to say. And I'm not here to offend you. I really am offering, as they say, an olive leaf or branch of friendship to even those of you that listen to Alex, to let you know that I'm not coming from this side of telling you that the conspiracy isn't real. On the contrary, I've seen Alex for many years in the past as like a brother in spirit, and it being very strong. But that very strong spirit, you could even call it nostalgia, also men are also led into other situations romantically to where they're starstruck and in love with the wrong woman or in the wrong career. In my life, I've seen how the people that I've made my heroes, and there's about 3 or 4 of them, we're only talking about Alex now, because I see him as a great deceiver. And we're getting into that. But there's been this theme in my life in this introduction, letting you know a little bit about me with the Cliff Notes, where I've seen people that I've looked up to, they've shown me their dark side in some way, shape, or form. There's a guy who's actually a boxing instructor, and he was involved in a lot of street fighting, a man of Japanese descent. He actually was involved in collecting money for the mob at one time. So I looked up to this man. Before there was Alex Jones, there was someone that I actually knew who was like the best at his field, but also very intelligent. And when I was young and naive, there's ways in which I allowed him to build up the cult of celebrity, which he literally did. It was literally the charisma. It was literally in his aura. It was hypnotic. And there's something vampiric about people like that want you to look up to them a certain way or to program you in some way. And so you could say that there's a number of different people that I've met in my life, men. And there's actually one that I actually consider to be I actually called him a spiritual consultant, because he literally played that role of the dude that could speak to spirit. And then I saw that he was a deceiver as well with regards to the New Age movement. And that's why I have a lot of knowledge, and there's other reasons why I have a lot of knowledge on the disinformation in the New Age movement. It comes through personal experience, because I've dealt with these stuff. I've dealt with these individuals. I've dealt with these archetypes. And I'm speaking out against this cult of ego that a lot of these men that I've known personally, and I've actually met Alex Jones several times, and I feel like I actually know him from another time and place, to be quite literal and transparent with you. So my whole interaction with this deity or man known as Alex Jones runs pretty deep. And with the history of me knowing about him since 2002. And to wrap up the other point, the person that I worshipped in a way, I came to find out that he was artificially taking a substance known as human growth hormone, and that his claims of being all natural all those years were not legitimate, and that he had to be cruel in his own way because he kind of had that attitude, that bad boy, talk shit to his students, mentors. Hey man, you looking at me wrong? Or even Alex Jones has that kind of, that men are drawn to other men that are very dominant in some ways, that'll look down at them going, boy, I say, boy, don't you look at me wrong. Now you listen, boy. And so some of us, whether it's in our blood or whatever, we're drawn to some of these fucking asshole dudes that act like they're going to take over, but they care about us, but they're going to take over and do things right. So it's like, anyway, I saw how this dude was his own type of energy manipulator or vampire. And let's just be brief on this. I went down some dark roads when I was 19 or 20, long before I got involved in the alternative media, with regards to heroin, substance abuse. And I got myself off that when I got involved in the alternative media, much more successful and younger than other people. So to keep down the down low, but he used that against me as, well, now I'm not really going to mentor you and teach you how to be this, that, and the other. Pretending in his own little world that he was grooming me for some maybe underworld role. And when you're a young kid and you're 18 or 19, not everyone's going to be of that level of intelligence to realize when someone's sweet talking them. And maybe that person may not even know that they're sweet talking or leading someone along to think that that person's going to invest a certain amount of time or energy in helping that other person achieve certain goals. Now, it was good that I didn't follow in his footsteps, but what I learned was he used my own mistakes against me in the sense by saying or suggesting that I couldn't really be trusted, that I was basically marked by having a criminal history, that I was marked and was no longer useful to him. And so, the whole thing is that I went my own way, thank God. And it took a few years, for that part of my life to be fully behind me. And then I moved on to alternative media. And I still talked to this person later on in life, but there were just more confirmation that we were on different paths. This person was also very involved in the corporate world. So a lot of the stuff that he played up, by the way, in his adulthood regarding the underworld was more this fantasy football type of jock talk, really, and war stories from his youth, as he literally lived in his own fantasy land. So what I'm saying is there was reality, and then there was this world of fakeness that he was propping up to prop up his self-image. So when I met someone a year after him who basically talked about, it was just weird how this happened. But I'm back in Portland. Someone invites me over who knows me on Facebook. Maybe we'll talk about, computer stuff or conspiracies, that kind of a thing. Once in a while we do, every now and then, meet each other in the real world. Well, he starts ranting about this guy, saying the name over and over of this Japanese man. That was my, again, I looked up to him, even worshipped him, but felt rejected by him. And what is this young man talking about who was much younger than me? How this other man, we'll call him the A-man, knocked him out when he was arguing with him. And he said that at the time he was roid raging because of the human growth hormone. And he wanted to see him excel in football. And I never knew this guy to be into football. So I was interpreting this as his whole domination, archon, mindset, dominator, was basically punishing this young man. Punishing this young man because of him turning against his wishes. Again, I didn't know this guy to be into football, so he was just into Archon control freak, because there was already other theories that I was developing regarding picking up on bad spirits regarding this individual, the very same guy that I worshipped, again, before I found Alex Jones. And he see, Alex Jones fulfilled, it's like, I don't know whether this video or podcast is about one guy or the other, but really the archetype that connects them both. And so Alex Jones filled another void, and he was like a real hero archetype. I think that's something that young men are easily led. And the main way they get him is under the military to go kill in the Middle East, to come under that flag. But that flag and that flavor doesn't work for us all. That flavor of so-called patriotism. There's other forms of patriotism, or patriot, cha-ching, as some others choose to put it. No, Patriotism has different flavors and versions, but the idea of coming under a flag has so many connotations. More so than what you and I are even thinking. To come under a flag or to come under a rulership. It even affects the New Agers. And I talked about that with the Ashtar Command Galactic Federation of Light flag, that they fly themselves. So there's something tribal about that, and it is a real lack of a strong independent spirit where that comes from. So people with their gangs, people with their mafias, people with their tribes, people with their clans, people with their groups, there's nothing wrong with community. But there's something about organic people meeting each other or having positive encounters with the people around them and working to make those encounters better than they were the day before. And to be mindful in the environments that we're in. But see, now we're in this world of the internet and the counterfeit tribe to replace something that should be genuine. And so people like Alex Jones are there to lead people in certain directions, just like people like others find young people and get them involved in criminal activity or get them involved in gangs because they're people they look up to as a male role model. They want to be just like them. They see the bling, bling, bling. They see the money. They hear the stories of the women liking them. The men are told these things by the other men. Yes, you can be like me and you can have these things. You can have a nice car and you can have a strong body and you can knock people out and the women will want to fuck you and you can eat nice meals. And maybe you can even develop your own thing with your own crew underneath you. And this is all the garbly-goo that I heard from Dude, the A-man. But see, I don't want to be mean like him. And he knew that. And he knew I believed in karma. He knew I believed in what goes around comes around. He thought it was strange and he struggled with it. And in the end, he fears his own karma. To this day, the things that he did to others. Now that he doesn't have the body that he had then when he was playing himself up, when he lost his confidence in himself, and periods where this waned and waxed confidence in men that treat it like a drug, that act like it's a drug, you could see its effect on them. Absolutely. Grab my coffee here. When they are feeling hot to trot, they want to spread that energy or they want to use people to help them feel hot to trot. Even if that means programming them and just taking them out for a meal and just talking at them for 2 hours about the good old days. Is that really friendship? If that whole thing is set up for that person to get it's the other person to worship them and give them energy. See, we do go back and forth between this individual and Alex Jones because people like Alex Jones are using the internet and almost using magic with Archon assistance to redirect energy. So people stare at the monitor and they give their energy, their fears, their hopes, all of that, their dreams, their nightmares to Alex Jones as they watch him and others of his ilk on YouTube. As they play into their fears and their hopes, as they keep them bound to this matrix. So listen, when I was looking up to the A-man, my views on karma and whatnot were there, but not as strong as they are now. But I believe certain things even then. That's why I hurt briefly and had the drug experience, because I had a spiritual crisis I was feeling. A lot of people that go through that, they're having a crisis because they're not knowing how to deal with those feelings. And they think at their young age or unfortunate older age that it's acceptable for them to numb themselves out from dealing with the pain exploding inside them. Because they don't know how to identify what's going on because they're young and naive. They don't really know how to mediate that. So they can feel easily, well, just go out this route. And just do this and numb the pain that way. They're not necessarily a bad person. They're just hurting. And I was hurting. And there were reasons why I was hurting. And I didn't have a real positive male role model in my life in reality. Because the dude was leading me astray. So he wants to, okay, I'm going to go my direction. You're going to go yours. And went deeper into my... But you know what? I ended up getting myself out of it within a few years. And getting involved in the alternative media. And that scared this man. It's like once you go in that direction, you can't go back. See, he had already been frightened by the system. He did a year in prison for things that he did to others when he tortured people in a crack house in 1986. So he has this primitive fear. So he had to fight big old black guys, 1986, knock him out, drag him out, hit him over the head with a metal chair with the showers, with the water going, so hopefully they'll fall. And all these stories that he shared with the past, you think a man would want to relive that when he's in his 60s with broken bones and broken kneecaps, living in fear and looking over their shoulder because they're not as big and bad as the lion and tiger that they used to be. And see, that's the plight of many older men that at one point were very dangerous and did very bad things to others, but not very many good things. They're looking over their shoulder. And now they're starting to wonder about karma, as karma in their later years sometimes rears its ugly head through the form of a sucker punch or a fist coming from a young punk coming out of a supermarket, and they didn't even see it coming. People like Alex Jones are going to be in the most or highest levels of fear. And he's already approaching that, as you see security guards with Alex Jones as he goes to the crowds, no longer the young buck who actually really is standing against the establishment, but the corrupted one who goes to the RNC with the wall of, you see, I'm showing you this story of man's fall in a way, and how great giants can fall. And even in our mind's eye, how we can see them as so great on one level during certain years, until we peel back the onion and pull back the curtain and look behind it at the Wizard of Oz, or at the reality of the true them behind the facade of the great gentle giant that they purport themselves to be. Through experience dealing with certain individuals that ultimately were my teachers. They may have been my guides at one point. They may have been my helpers at one point. That includes Alex Jones. They may have been inspiration at one point. It was the A-man that taught me how to hit physically hard like a heavyweight for the little guy that I am. Now, I had that in me, and I have other things in me that he never taught. But what he did is he opened the Pandora's box. As we went over and over to go over, no, hit it again. As we went over that drill, as he struck my shoulder, it's like, no, parry, block, this way, just to the side, block to the outside, back in, protect the elbows, bam, if I didn't protect the elbows, he'd come in with a strike to my ribs. So I developed certain fundamentals from working with this person, from that almost becoming intoxicating, just like Alex Jones with the programming. You learn a little goes a long way, then you're hooked and you keep coming back, and then you find it being an unhealthy thing, not a healthy thing. And those individuals in our lives not actually encouraging us to be our true selves, but to be the counterfeit cookie cutter or something like them. Or just simply to follow them, to not even attempt to be as good as them. Because the A-man never took my fighting abilities as far as they actually are or were. He'd come in and out, we'd focus on a few techniques, but it really wasn't what I assumed from a supposed street fighting master. A Bolo Young of the Japanese ilk of old Portland. Like something out of a movie, like boom, 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 5 guys knocked out. Literally just a few seconds have passed. And the dude puts on his aviator glasses and walks out into the sunset with his driving gloves. And it's like the type of stuff filled my head in was just above and beyond. And it was worthy of a movie. The same thing we've gotten from Alex Jones. So, I've noticed, and I've been honest with my own history, and that there was positive and negative things that came from these people. And it takes discernment to go, well, there were some positive things here, and then it led over here, when we really didn't just apply the take what is relevant and leave the rest. And don't let them bait us through their manipulation into hopes that they're going to be the one to help us evolve. And there are ways in which both of them played those games. And in reality, we look behind the curtain, we look at their own personal lives. Sometimes we see drug abuse, we see infidelities, we see adultery, we see people that are innocent being harmed, we see them abusing their beauty, their intelligence, and their brawn, their gifts, and using those things to control others. We see the female version of this. I've really zoned in on like the archetype of the counterfeit true masculine. Someone that really at times can embrace the dark masculine, I gave you a description of someone in the underworld. I've given you a description of Alex Jones. There are other people that could also fit that bill. I've said there are deceivers in the New Age movement as well. There are men like James Gilliland that are coming from the soft, peaceful male side and acting like they are coming in the light. And then we see that they're actually misusing their gifts, if they have any gifts, to manipulate some of the people that visit them into giving them their energy, or in the case of James Gilliland, from what I heard, their sexuality. The dude literally has claimed to have gone up on the spaceship, Pleiadian spaceship, on a physical sense. No, we're not talking about dreams. When you see people take things to a whole and then put pictures up with Coast to Coast helping catapult the propaganda that a UFO flew over James while he was meditating just to play up the whole guru thing. And it was a beam of light that allegedly shot down from the heavens through James. And to me, it looked photoshopped at the time, but yet there it was, George Noory reporting it on Coast to Coast website. Then I met James Gilliland, then I kept going up there, and then I started to connect the dots for myself, and this knowledge kind of came into me regarding this dude. And the type of distrust I felt from him as he looked towards me the times I come up. Maybe I wasn't giving enough money for parking. But I don't want to sound bitter. I'm using this as an example on the New Age side, and then my mother had a New Age boyfriend that was involved in fake channeling. From knowing James and Carl, I've seen how this fake love and light male archetype is very much predominant. That particular archetype of the New Age male is mostly targeted or used towards women that are susceptible, that desire to be with someone or around someone who claims to be channeling ascended beings. It's like they're getting like a doorway or an access to heavenly information, and they can bypass the creepiness of Archangel Michael, and they could just deal with James directly. or someone like that who's going to claim to be channeling very similar messages than that which has been given from the alleged Galactic Federation of Light. So whatever flavor it comes, whether it's supposed tough guy or a spiritual guy, whether you know them and whether they were in your life, which versions of them have been in my life, from the New Age side to the gangster tough guy martial arts side to someone that you're looking at on the internet, whether they're coming from the guru spiritual side or they're acting like a John Wayne, we're going to take them on. You're helping me by watching my channel, they may say to you, and all of these other things. To defeat the Clinton conspiracy. Now, I do believe that you are helping me in some way as I play my role in exposing what the Archons are doing. But that's a little bit of a deeper perspective. And it isn't necessarily relying on your dollars. In fact, I'm doing this with very little financial support. But it is good to support what people are doing, especially if it's a good cause. But can that energy be redirected when people say support me, and you support us by buying these counterfeit products and putting things that are dangerous in your body? And then we go back to Alex Jones and the questionable things, and even we ask ourselves if some of those things that people are buying to support him, whether some of those products could actually be harmful. And I keep thinking about the tangy tangerine, but in particular this male enhancement, this male booster thing. And it's like from that Simpsons episode where all of a sudden Homer has his hair back and he's a man again, and he starts going through the crash. I think there might be more things than we know coming through the Simpsons regarding things that are happening in the real world. So I appreciate your support. But I also see how others are using the support and the attention not to actually, in reality, in their hearts, and even in their true intention, to fight the systems of control, but to build up like their own personal pyramid. Their own castle. Their own brand. I go on and on. But out of selfishness, they want to see this. They want to see their legacy. They want to see something literally pissed in the ground with their name stamped in it, because they want a piece of that hierarchy pie as well. So when you look closely at these individuals, every one of them, it leads to a really outlandish, almost supernatural area. I'm using 3 examples. With the A man, it was, I've known these guys, or these bodybuilders, or old time. Yeah, we've partied back in the day. Oh yeah, I've known Arnold, like bigger than life, like the biggest untold celebrity of the world, based on conversations over dinner. To then the Alex Jones. I get big calls from the government, the CIA that call me up to other things. To other men claim that they are literally talking to the ascended masters. People like Carl in the 1980s, 1990s, these weird trips with my mother up to meet him, the most outlandish things that he would say. To people like James Gillen. Some of you could at least find out who he is, so you get like a readout on who it is that I'm speaking of. In fact, type in James Gilliland on my channel, for those of you that know how to search and do Google searches just under channels, or you can type in James Gilliland and Alex Ansary, and you can see him capitalizing on the trending meme of the solar flares, which I wrote a legitimate article about in 2009. Here's James Gilliland calling for a solar flare kill shot in the year of 2009. Very premature, didn't actually happen. And yet people look to people like James Gillen because the sensationalism of it, of the idea of talking to the ascended masters and being able to skip real spirituality and go and get it directly from a heavenly source. Kind of like with Alex Jones, skip real research and then get it directly from a heavenly source. And with this guy, A-Man, to not really develop your own confidence in yourself and your own style, but to want to mimic and worship and admire someone else's style, dress, or idea of what it means to be a tough guy. And so in retrospect, I look at this individual. Are you a real legitimate tough guy in the end, when we look at some of the things that we need to be tough against in this world and not bow down and have, steroid taking bodybuilding friends with a portrait of George W. Bush during the friggin' war, so you don't lose any wealthy athletic clients? That sounds like selling out. That doesn't sound like a real tough guy. It sounds like a paper tough guy who's like it's like a tiger but not a dragon. And then we move to Alex Jones, a counterfeit of the genuine researcher who's against the New World Order, who's really now become a caricature of that. 2, looking at people like Carl and James Gilliland, and really a counterfeit version of a really intuitive man in touch with his masculine and feminine side, who really is using his supposed gift of gab to the spirits to get in the pants of multiple women and to lead some men astray. So it's like, I think that we're in the day and age, it's time to wrap up my thoughts, of the awakening for many men to rise beyond the worship of the dark masculine or the archetype of the returning father. With the worship of Donald Trump for some people, some reasons, this flavor of archetype, big brother coming back, daddy, works on some people. Doesn't happen to work on me, but it's almost as if the and forgive me for saying, but I believe it to be the truth. The redheaded blonde, Donald Trump, perfect Aryan man coming through, make America great again. Like, that flavor works on some people. It just don't work on me. But I'll tell you what, because of the way that biology works and the way that people tend to worship people that look like them or seem to be part of their tribe, for some people, Donald Trump is the closest thing to that. And he's saying just enough. And so, like, Donald Trump is like a super on steroid driven version of like the shit that I've already come through. So there's a reason why Alex Ansary doesn't get behind worshiping any males at this point. Highly skeptical when it comes to politicians. Very independent. I don't even follow even though I like martial arts, other systems, because I have my own style. I don't listen to anyone else in the alternative media because I have my own information. I don't listen to anyone else's guided meditations because I already understand what works for me. You keep working on it. You be consistent at it in your prayer and meditation, in your desire to connect further with your higher self. You don't need all these internet gurus. So I've learned and come to many of my conclusions regarding archonic influence in human relationships, archons using human beings to redirect energy, and people basically being energy vampires, because I've come across various versions of it, male and female. And in this half-hour podcast, I think I gave you a pretty detailed paint the picture in the mind's eye example of waking up to the male version of the deceiver that the archons may use to divert our attention and awakening. There may be certain people that give us some good information, and we can thank them for that and not hate them for that. I can thank each one of those individuals, Carl, maybe James Gillen, but not really, Alex Jones, and even the A-Man, for teaching me some basic self-defense stuff and basic things about the Portland underworld and things I've never learned from any book. I've learned from one man, under very interesting conversations. And then how many things have we learned from Alex Jones when he was at his best? And he got us looking at certain things, not to mention torture of Middle Eastern human beings. He talked about that back in the day. Was that wrong? No, that was right. But it's the awakened man that realizes that we are in the age of deception. And the people that are our deceivers often come as our best friends and role models. And I think what I did is I shared with you part of my awakening and seeing beyond the spells that were cast and thrown in my direction. And now I stand on my own 2 feet. And I stand fully confident in my own information, my own fighting ability, and my own knowledge, and my own spiritual inclinations and understandings. I don't need any of these men for their information or talents or energies at all as I reach this point in my adulthood, and I will be 37 years young, or years old, February 25th, 2017, and now I'm looking forward to imparting more of my gifts with some of you, helping many of you become more independent and to unplug from even the people you're addicted to listening to or looking up to or watching on TV. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, which are very entertaining, can be also very hypnotic and I am the dude and all the things that come along with that, and the military propaganda, that fear of terrorism that also is in the backdrop, not to mention the Chuck Norris movies as well, and other forms of pop culture predictive programming that led us into the post 9/11 world. I'd like to help a lot of you become more independent from things that you've corded up with, because it is your destiny. With that, this now concludes this podcast. I'm Alex Ansary, sign off from a hill somewhere out there in southwest Colorado, snowed in probably for another month or two, January 20th, 2017.